A few years ago, I believed the biggest lie in freelancing, that finding clients was all about being good at what you do. When I started off in freelancing, I had the skill, I had the portfolio, I had everything that I thought was okay. But I was still not landing those jobs I was supposed to land with the skill set that I had. Meanwhile, freelancers with less the experience that I had were landing gigs in thousands of dollars. Then I learned something. Just 5 truths that nobody is talking about, not because they don't want to, but because it's not easy to do. And when I learned them, it changed the direction and dimension of my freelancing journey. So today, I am pulling the curtain on these 5 unspoken truths that many freelancers aren't talking about. Are you ready? Then let's get into it. Number 1, the easy money myth. Now, let me be brutally honest with you. There are no easy, high-paying gigs for beginners. So if you're sitting there and you're in every comment section asking, what business or what job can I do with no skill to land high-paying jobs? I'm sorry to say, you're being delusional. You see that freelancer who is making maybe $10,000 to $6,000 per month in their career? It didn't just start now. They didn't start that day. They spent about 6 to 12 months building portfolio. While they were building these portfolios within this time frame, they were taking low-paying jobs just to gain testimonials and climb the ladder, especially as beginners. And the beautiful part of this approach is that with these small jobs that they take on, they are able to learn client management than taking on big clients when they have not even seen how they are able to manage the small ones to know the proper way to manage their clients. I was privileged to speak to a couple of successful freelancers, and I noticed a pattern. They invested 200 to 300 hours in the first 6 months sharpening their skills and building portfolios. I, for one, when I started, I was spending 10 hours a day. So if they told me they did 200 to 300 hours, I believe them. Do you know what it means to invest 200 to 300 hours studying, upskilling, refining your skill and building portfolio? That's like a part-time job that has no upfront payments. But here is where most people mess up. They chase easy jobs, the one with minimal efforts, looking for quick money. These gigs always almost leads to one of these 2 disasters: burnout from unrealistic client expectations, severe underpayment that trains you to undervalue your work. Do this instead. Treat your first 6 months as an apprenticeship. Don't just build portfolios, but build strategic portfolios that position you for opportunities and helps you be able to use them to look for jobs that will build testimonials for you. In all of this, make sure to set healthy boundaries. Don't end up going to do free jobs or jobs that are not worth the stress that you're putting in that job. Number 2, being a generalist. Hear me out before you crucify me. Your bio says, I do web design, social media management, graphic design, video editing. You are all over the place. That's a bad one. That's even worse than being a generalist. With all of this being on your bio, you've most likely lost any potential clients, because if you go to the hospital and you see a doctor that is a cleaner, that is a nurse, that is a pharmacist, will you trust that person to heal you? This is different from being a doctor that is a general doctor and having specialities, because all these skill sets do not even fit under one umbrella. When you end up being specific with the skill sets or the services you offer, you might not be getting jobs like the generalist, true, but when you eventually get a job, you can attract a high-paying client because they see you as a specialist in that field compared to somebody who is doing everything, and they cannot be able to trust if this person can really take up on their project. Because why are you doing video editing, website design, and all of that, social media management as one? Pick a side and stick to it. Pick a niche. If it's automation, pick automation and pick the skills under automation. If it is social media management, pick social media and pick all the apps that you want to manage, socials you need to manage. But don't be everywhere like you are confused on what you want to offer. I hope you're getting my point. Number 3, your network is actually your net worth. I know you've heard this several times, but this is just beyond going for social gatherings, tech events, conferences, and all that. You see that social media that you're treating with laxity, it's another avenue to network. You see Twitter, you see LinkedIn, even Facebook. Those are nice places to network with people, because you never can tell who your prospective clients are. I still remember a fellow freelancer like myself who found me on Twitter and referred me to his clients who wasn't even on Twitter. So this is the beauty of networking with other people, even people within your niche, not necessarily clients, even your fellow freelancers, to look out for you the same way you look out for them. So get along and network properly. Here are 3 strategic ways you can network without the conventional pitching to people when you go for conferences. Join communities online on Facebook, on Slack, on Discord, on Twitter. Just join communities. Don't just join and become mules. Be helpful. Somebody has a question or a stuck, go out of your way, even if it means you're researching, to help them solve that problem. Now, what happens with this approach is that when the same person needs help with a gig tomorrow, or another person wants to hire, they would have seen how helpful you were to other people or to them, and they will prioritize giving you that gig over somebody who slid into their DM. So you understand the emotions and psychology to it now, right? Strategy 2, the referral system. I call this the gold standard. Just like the Twitter experience I shared with you, and also an additional one from somebody who referred me from WhatsApp. These are the systems you should have in place. Now, if you have a client whom you just concluded a project with, you can go ahead to ask the person, please, do you have anybody who would want similar service I could render to them? They could say yes, especially if you did a fantastic job for them. Please, if you did a shitty job, you can't even be asking for referral. Just collect your money and leave. Offer incentives. I have the habit of, when somebody refers me for a job, I try to give them a token as appreciation. When you do that, such a person will never forget you compared to other people they must have referred who did not come to appreciate them. For every time I've done that, or for some time I have done that, I've seen the people who I do this for come back again to refer me to people who they referred me to before, or to new sets of clients. And that's because I have created an impression in their mind that shows appreciation for what they do for me. The third way to build a referral engine is to keep in touch with your old clients. It's not enough to just send them a message and say you're checking up on them. You can send them Happy New Month messages. You can send them celebratory messages. I mean, it depends on what they're celebrating in their country. If it's Halloween, if it's a holiday, anything at all, just keep in touch. Just say, hey, happy days, I'm just checking up on you and I wish you a restful holiday. And it keeps you in the loop of them having you in mind when there's an opportunity, just in case they've forgotten. The third strategy is the one that I dismissed at the beginning, which is online networking. We cannot particularly dismiss it out. We can also get people or pitch to people when we attend occasions like this. Could be your fellow freelancers. They don't even need to be in your niche, because a developer might have a client that wants an automation need, and if you people exchange contacts and keep in touch, they'll have you in mind. You could even be pitching to somebody who looks very unassuming and you're like, this one, does he have money? And they could just be one big CEO. So go out of your way to go for events and try to talk to people, tell them what you do. A trick. If you can design a very simple business card, that will be very helpful. Talk about what you do on the business card, how about your information, and share to as many people as possible while pitching yourself. Number 4 of the unconventional ways freelancers are landing it on the pricing is repelling your ideal clients away from you. Yes. Charging $15 per hour or $15 flat rate for that job that most freelancers are charging more for doesn't make you appear cheap only to the clients. It makes them feel like you're inexperienced and desperate, because some of these clients know the work involved and have a mental note on how much that should be charged for that project. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you are a beginner, I take exception to this scenario for you, or if you're trying to penetrate a platform. Now, these are exceptional scenarios, but you can't be so good at what you do, have solid portfolios, have good testimonials and all that, and you're pricing way cheaper than what others are pricing. It's giving desperation. Some of the strategies that can inform your pricing could be creating tiers for your packages. Could be basic, premium, standard packages. Here is how to overcome the fear of pricing premium rate. Number 1, ask for the rates. Don't be afraid to ask. What I always do is that when I make a ask, I try to break it into milestones so that you see in details what I'm offering you. Number 2, start with a premium based project. Maybe you have a tier and you fix a price to it. Don't be afraid and say, let me adjust the rates. You can keep pitching, keep cold emailing, keep sending messages, DMs. You might just get one yes. Just make sure you have portfolios that match the price, or demos that match the price, so that clients will take you seriously and they will see what you can offer before they commit their money to you. Number 3, calculate your business costs, the software you will use, the cost of data, the cost of the gadgets and everything in between. When you're pricing it low and you calculate the money looks big. By the time you put into consideration all the small costs that will be involved, you'll realize you're not even breaking even. Now, To the number 5th unconventional truths or ways freelancers are making money: personal branding. I cannot overemphasize the need to build a personal brand. Personal branding is your long-term survival strategy. If you do not know that, there's nothing as beautiful as building a personal brand online that clients begin to come to you themselves and for you to begin to search, chase, and pitch to people to hire you. Hey, your brand isn't just a fancy logo or color codes. Your brand is every piece of interaction, every piece of content you have put out there, showing leadership and thoughtfulness in your niche or field. In summary, is the reputation you build over time online. You don't need to post daily or go viral. You just need to consistently share insights and demonstrate expertise in that field. Here are some ways this can look when you practice them. It could be you sharing clients' wins or lessons learned by building that project for them. Could even be newsletters or YouTube videos like this one, sharing insights into things that are being done in your field. Answering questions also in communities where your ideal clients hang around is another way to build personal brand. As a freelancer, you can just share common mistakes clients make in that business or in that niche that they could avoid. The beautiful thing about building a personal brand is that you don't even need large followings. You don't even need large interactions on your post. If clients are beginning to trust you over time with the content you're putting out, they will begin to reach out on their own. And that saves you the issue of cold emailing or cold DMing anybody. Adapt to market changes and document the processes while you learn. When a tool is out of vogue, go to something else. When there's a new trend, be aligned with it too, and don't be left behind in that industry. Overall, stop positioning yourself online as available to hire, but position yourself as somebody who can strategically solve a specific problem. Now, here is your homework. It's going to be very uncomfortable, but that's the only way you know that it's the right thing for you to do. Number 1, write down your ideal clients, the problems you solve for them, and what you deliver for them as a result. If you find it difficult to narrow down the clients that you serve, then you are too broad and you seem to be serving everybody. Keep refining it until you hit something very specific. But just so you know, you must be very grounded in that niche before you decide that is a niche you want to settle in. Number 2, calculate your hourly rate, putting into consideration your business costs. Calculate everything that you incur from data, fuel, electricity, every single thing. Let them go into the rates that you're going to be giving, whether a fixed rate or an hourly rate. Number 3, build past relationships with your clients that you've had before. You don't need to pitch anything, just share insightful articles, publications, check on them. Don't pitch anything. Just build back the relationship. Number 4, commit to sharing at least one piece of content online consistently every week or even more for 30 days. It could be anywhere. It could be LinkedIn, it could be Twitter, it could be newsletter, it could be anywhere. Just make sure to show up and show up consistently. Now, which of these truths hits you harder? Which one have you been ignoring all this while and you felt they were irrelevant? Drop a comment about them in the comment section and let's talk about them together. If this video challenged you to think harder, then hit the like button. It helps the algorithm push this video to more freelancers who also need this reality check like you too. I'm hoping at this point you'll subscribe to the channel because I'll be sharing more valuable and useful tips on this channel for you. Until next time, start building and keep up the momentum. I'll see you in my next video. So take care.